Don't compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 15. It was never my intention to start something like this.
Now you're making shorts, you're doing talks at BlenderCon.
It's super surreal what's happening currently, yeah.
Your latest project, kind of a fan-made series inspired by Mega Man.
Okay, recreating one of those characters might be fun. I posted it, people were saying, okay, do the next one, do the next one. I saw the opportunity that with each character I could exercise new disciplines in Blender. And then there was no going back. One of the trickiest things I would say is to take a beloved character and interpret them in your own way.
You could be getting sent hate mail and go, Nico, what have you done?
Passion and endurance and patience are very important in this kind of field. Everything takes time. I tried to separate this whole big project into like small tasks to work more efficiently.
Do you have any advice for filmmakers who want to tell a story?
It sounds weird when you call me a filmmaker.
You made films?
Yeah, I guess so. This project showed me I did a lot of things right.
Oh, woohoo! Yeah! Yeah, it's Nico in the house. What's happening? It's Nico in the house. Yeah.
Party started without me? Come on, guys.
Hey, Nico.
Hey.
Nico, thank you. Welcome to the VFX Process.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. If you want to just start with a brief introduction, what's your name, who you are, what do you do?
My name's Nico. I'm from Germany. I'm a freelance 2D artist. My passion is basically doing short films, but my background is actually in 2D graphic design for about, over 20 years, I believe. I've done graphic design. So regular, like in advertising. But I was always interested in like 3D and stuff like that. At around like 13, 14, I started using a little bit of Cinema 4D, but it was on a very, very basic level. In 2020, when COVID hit, I stumbled upon Blender. That was the time when 2.8 roughly came out.
Oh yeah, the big change in Blender interfaces.
Yeah, at the conference, I saw that since 2.8, there was like this huge spike of downloads because suddenly people saw, this is looking good. Oh, now suddenly you can select with the left click instead of the right click, stuff like that. Yeah, I dove like head first into Blender. So I still do a little bit of graphic design, but overall I'm trying to do more 3D stuff. But in my spare time, I like to do storytelling, creating short films with character animations and teach myself all those interesting things that come with the film production, basically. So I try to do everything by myself, a little bit here, a little bit there, because it's fun to learn, right?
Definitely.
So I think my initial interest started with movies, VFX in general. So when I saw things like Jurassic Park back then, I was super interested in how this was made. So the interest was already there, but it always felt like this unreachable goal. It seemed to me like this Hollywood thing, far, far away. I never really considered doing it myself.
Well, you've come a long way. Now you're making shorts, you're doing talks at BlenderCon.
Suddenly. It's super surreal. It's super surreal what's happening currently. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, today we're mainly going to be talking about one of the projects, your latest project, Mavericks, episode 5, which is a kind of a fan-made series inspired by the love of Mega Man. Can you just tell us how this project series came about?
It was never my intention to start something like this. When I started using Blender, I watched some tutorials, did the donut and everything.
Of course.
As you do.
Yeah.
Everything that I watched on tutorials, you kind of want to apply it to a personal project. That's something that I learned very early on. Start your own small project and apply everything that you learn from tutorials. I always had this fond memory of this game back then. And I thought, okay, recreating one of those characters might be fun because they are built simply enough that I could maybe model them. And it was fun. Then I thought, okay, let's exercise like working with shaders. So making him a little bit more rusty, adding some imperfections, stuff like that. But then that didn't work with the simple cartoony style. So I redesigned the character and made it more realistic. Okay, cool. What do you do with that? So I thought, okay, he needs an environment. So I recreated his stage. It's like an underwater level. And then I had the character in his environment. And then I thought, okay, next thing, animation. What do we do? So I thought, okay, let's animate a camera flying around him. This was basically the first episode. And it was, as I said, just an exercise to try to learn those things. So I posted it. And people were really, really excited to see it. So people were saying, okay, do the next one, do the next one. I thought like, okay, why not?
Give what the fans want.
Yeah, exactly. you need to after a while. Each character, they have like their own environments, their own style. I saw the opportunity that with each character, I could exercise new disciplines in Blender. And then there was no going back.
Yeah.
Then I had to do all of them. There are 8 boss characters, so that's basically what I'm doing now.
Ah, okay.
And now we're after episode 5.
So you got 3 left.
I got 3 left.
Then you've got an awesome pitch to take to a big company that will make the feature film of it.
I mean, I hope so. That's like the big dream, obviously. Yeah, there will be still 3 more characters with their own episodes. And then I'm planning on doing like a few final episodes where all the stories come together, and then we will see the main character, Mega Man. Everything will come together in like this big finale.
Well, we can't wait for that, and I'm sure everybody else can't wait as well. You mentioned that each episode you like to practice and, you know, teach yourself different particular skill sets or techniques. For example, in the latest one, you know, character animation, there's like electricity, there's effects and things, and in particular there's it's all in one take. Was that something that you wanted to challenge yourself with?
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the challenges for this episode, to just try to see how this can go, because I had this idea for this character in my mind that was like time related. So this is like a causality loop. He rescues himself to go back in time to be able to rescue himself. And I thought, okay, if I do some editing, I would need to explain it a little bit more, but with no edits, no cuts, just one continuous camera shot. I thought it would be more interesting into showing how time goes back and forth, and this would kind of like support the whole time loop thing. So I thought, okay, let's try it.
So the camera is clearly a conscious decision because it serves a purpose for the story.
Exactly.
Where do you start and where do you extract it from Niko's head and put it down as ideas and planning? What does that look like in your world?
I would love to say that I'm very organized, but I'm not.
That's fine. We want the truth, Niko.
No. You'll get the whole truth, of course. I mostly have all the ideas in my head, but I also write down like bullet points of nice to haves, basically. So the story beats, first of all, what should happen. But then I try to separate this whole big project into like small tasks. It can be very overwhelming if you just have this big story and you know this will happen and this will happen. Just first create the character, then create the environment, then create some PREVIS. So what I love to do is first define where the main things are in the environment. How big is it? Where's the camera? Where does the camera go? I think the PREVIS stage is the most important one because it functions as a blueprint for everything else. I try to do as much as possible in the PREVIS stage to define distances and timing, especially. Timing is very important in that stage, especially if you have just one continuous shot. So I think the PREVIS stage is the main thing that helps me with planning, but also coming up with ideas, because only after seeing at least like the base structure of everything, you suddenly come up with ideas. You place a door here and a wall and a pillar, and then you suddenly see, okay, what can I do with those things? And that's how usually it plays out, yeah.
Nice, man. And so when you're doing a one camera move, in this project in particular, was everything in the scene?
First, I had the idea of using multiple files and multiple scenes. It turned out that it was very difficult because since the camera has one path, I decided to use one master scene, basically. But I had a lot of assets and characters actually linked from other files. That was also one of my kind of goals to exercise with this episode, to learn how to use linked characters and linked libraries, because the scene would be overwhelmingly huge. I have a good PC, but not that big. So linking was a huge deal. And so that's what I definitely put a lot of work into, to making everything work. And for the scene, I divided it into 4 segments. One reason was just to have a little bit of variety in the film, but other than that, to just hide them when I don't need them. And that was also important while rendering. So I saw that there is actually a difference if you have something outside of the camera and you hide it or unhide it. There was actually a difference in render times. This was basically my setup to work more efficiently. Very well organized, like outliner with collections and characters and everything set up to be as easy as possible for me to handle.
Awesome, man. You've got a lot of, obviously, references from things like Mega Man and concept art and everything on the internet that exists prior to making a short. Do you collate them all on like a PureRef or just files and folders and just look through what bits you like and don't like?
PureRef. I use it mostly. Before I go into the design process, I collect a bunch of images from the games. Regarding the environment, that is actually one thing that I would say I'm not very good at, but also not very comfortable with, because I'm not a set designer. My environments are more like kit bashy. I have a few sets purchased that I sometimes use, or I reuse things from my other films. For example, the thing that the main character from episode 5 is captured in the beginning. That's basically most parts of the reactor from episode 4.
Efficiency, that's another efficiency tip.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. I had a lot of inspirations in terms of how the room would look like. But in the end, I didn't really do it because that would be way more work. And I thought the environment is important, but not that important that I need to put this much work into it.
Yeah, story is what you've been focusing on as well.
Yeah.
You can get away with a few things because the focus is what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I put you on the spot and ask if you have a PureRef file that we could just look at?
Oh, yeah. So I have one, definitely. Okay, so this is my PureRef.
Okay, awesome, man.
These are basically the character templates. So this is the main official artwork. So my process starts with recreating this character as it is in this picture, and then I take that model and redesign it piece by piece, like from top to bottom in my own style. Here you see a lot of like fan art. Some is official, some isn't. It's inspired by like a stag beetle.
Yeah, you can see, yeah, for sure.
So the name Kuanga comes from the Kuagata beetle. Yeah, I also found these drawings, which you can find for all the characters actually, which is super helpful because oftentimes you don't see how they look from the back. This is from the game, how the stage looks like. And then we have here some inspirations for the redesign of the characters. I can't really credit anyone here because I don't know whose it is if it's not signed, so I'm sorry for that. But that was basically like the vibe that I wanted to go for. A little bit more visceral, very menacing. I love putting in like anatomy structures into the robot structure themselves. So this, for example, like rib cages. So my character also has like those ribs showing on the sides, which I really like because for people seeing anatomy exposed, it already gives you like this visceral, like unsettling feeling. And especially this guy here, this is from a short film from Apex Legends.
Oh, yeah, we know that one.
It is almost like final idea for me. Okay, which direction do I want to go with the episode? And this is basically like this one fight, also one guy against many. I actually took some moves out of that film and incorporated into mine.
I was actually loosely thinking, I can see little hints here from that episode.
It's no coincidence.
I can see elements, just little bits of it in there. For sure.
That was definitely on purpose because I love this one so much. It incorporates everything that I love about short films, which is very tight storytelling. There is a little setup, then you get to the point, you have an exciting action scene that also still tells a story, and then you have the big finale, and then it's done. You don't waste any time.
Awesome, man. And I know that you're a big fan of Love, Death, Robots as well, Nico.
Oh, yeah.
Do you draw inspiration from things like that as well in terms of just storytelling, short films, animation?
100%.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, the art of incredible.
This is one of my biggest things that I am inspired by. Blur Studios was around for like decades, I believe. So I was aware that there is a spot for animations that are not Pixar-like, more mature, visceral, a little bit more gritty. But Love, Death, and Robots suddenly put it to the mainstream, I would say. And that showed me, okay, there is an audience for that and it can work. So yeah. Love, Death, and Robots is by far, I think, my biggest inspiration. Yeah, so in terms of environment, yeah, these are actually AI generated. I hope that's not like a no-no word here.
You know what? No, don't worry about it because I find that, you know, for inspiration, we've spoke with people in the past where just to get something visual for them to inspire something.
I just need the spark.
Yeah.
This is basically what I was aiming for in the beginning, especially something like this here.
Very cool, man.
I always try to go for like this low-tech, high-tech as if you would recreate sci-fi environments, but with today's tech. I found out that if you incorporate things out of our current world that we are familiar with, you can kind of more identify with this world and you empathize with this world a little bit more. So I try to use like regular screws and bolts, pipes, gears, pistons. I try to stay as grounded as possible. Also with like the effects, I try to stay within our physical world. So sparks, electricity. Also here for this pot that he's captured in the beginning.
Yeah.
The initial idea was to make it like the cylinder kind of thing. But then I was lazy again and I just used the reactor from it.
Be smart, I think, at times, especially with somebody that's making a short film or a project on their own. I mean, come on, you've got enough work to do.
In the end, you have to compromise, but you try to do it like in a good way that still works.
Definitely. And that moves perfectly onto efficiency. I know you've spoke about this at the talk and things, but can you just highlight some of the areas that you were being as efficient as possible?
So one of the biggest things, I think, is defining the camera as soon as possible. The camera is the deciding factor what is seen on the screen, obviously. So if you know where the camera is as early on as possible, you know then what will be very close to the camera, what will be very far from the camera. When you put something in the background and the camera will just pass it and you'll never see it again, you know it doesn't need to have perfect topology. It doesn't have to be textures perfectly with edge wear and details and screws and everything. It doesn't need that. So sometimes even just a 2D card of an object is more than enough.
I know linking is very important, and for people may be aware of what linking is.
You put a file into a file, but you can't really change it up. Only if you go to the original file, you change it and they will be updated everywhere you place it.
Super important. And especially if you've got other people working with you as well, they can be working on other assets and teams can use it to benefit from linking.
Yeah,
super.
And you have always the updated character or the model.
Rendering engine, was it EEVEE, Cycles?
It was Cycles. It just looks better and it's more accurate.
I guess especially with things like reflections and certain details.
I like EEVEE a lot, and especially with now EEVEE Next. But I started production on this film before EEVEE Next came out. So back then it wasn't just like up to my vision. And because I wanted the film to have like this moody kind of atmosphere, especially with volumes, with fog, with haze, and with lighting being very specific and guiding, especially shadows, to have this precise control was very important to me. And not to say that EEVEE doesn't have that control, but I think I don't have that much experience in fine-tuning EEVEE to work. It is possible. I've seen people that make incredible stuff in EEVEE that I would say, no, this is Cycles, or even this is real life. There is this one guy that does like Star Wars models. So his name is Rasmus Poulsen. His handle is TechNouveauArt. And he does it in Blender and renders in EEVEE.
That looks like it's filmed on a stage.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Also, like the camera shake, you know,
Yeah.
it's just this perfect amount of camera shake that just
That looks
works
so
well.
cool, man.
It looks amazing because it's he knows exactly how to fine tune EEVEE with the focus defocus and the shallow depth of field and everything and the materials. It is possible, but I don't have that much experience in EEVEE to fine tune it that much that it would work for me. So I just went to Cycles it is.
For this particular project, was there any specific add-ons that helped you with the project or for a specific part of the project?
Yes, definitely. So I can just do advertising for a few add-ons, yeah.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah, I mean, it's the community that shares everything, so go for it.
Oh yeah, okay, there are 3 add-ons that were really helpful. This is the first one. It's called To Optimize Tools. And this basically helps you optimize your scene.
Okay.
It costs $15, but what it gives you is, I would say, priceless, because one thing that it does, it color codes your scene and shows you which assets have the most dense mesh, basically. You get like this color coded overlay of your whole scene, and all the assets that have dense mesh, they appear red. And then the less dense it is, it becomes more green or yellow. It also helps you identifying like bottlenecks when it comes to rendering, because it can list all your images that you have, like your texture images, and it shows you how much RAM they actually use. And it actually also has like a button to change the resolution, like to make it half or 1/4 of the
That's
size
good.
if it's necessary. This one is definitely for efficiency, for finding your bottlenecks, for finding out why your render takes so long. This analyzes your whole scene and shows you where you can optimize.
Brilliant.
One other that I don't believe anyone has ever mentioned before. It's called Animated Render Border. I love it. Also costs $7, but it saved me so much time. When you render stuff out, you usually render the whole frame. But what this does is you can just select an object or a collection and it creates the render border around it, renders it out, and you can make everything else transparent. And in the end, you can, in editing, just overlay them on top of the original. And you just replaced that one object without re-rendering everything. Yeah, that helped a lot.
That's so cool.
And the third one it's called Pew Pew.
Oh, perfect.
It's free, and it's basically a one-click solution for creating shots or projectiles, lasers, whatever you want. And this guy, so his name is Jan Ruppert, and he created this for himself because he does Star Wars fan animation stuff. So in the style of like Clone Wars. So he created it out of necessity because he used so many lasers.
That makes complete sense.
And what it does is basically you have like a little gizmo that is the origin of the shot. So basically you place it on at the end of your barrel of your gun or whatever. And there's just one button. You click it, and what it does, it creates a muzzle flash. It creates a projectile that flies, and it doesn't need to be set up like a rigid body or something. It just needs to be there. It flies as long as it hits an obstacle. It creates then a hit flash. It creates sparks.
That's crazy.
And it creates a scorch mark that slowly fades away.
What?
And everything with just one click. And it's incredible. And it's incredible that it's for free. And he told me that he's planning on maybe making like a pro version.
That's insane.
All the shots in my film are made with this add-ons. You can change the color of the laser, but you can also replace the laser with whatever you like. And it just takes like maybe 4 or 5 seconds. And then you have already a baked spark simulation in there.
We will be using that.
Seriously, do this, please, because it's very underrated, I believe. And to update the lasers is even easy. It's just one button. So if you decide, oh no, it should aim a little bit more to the right, you just choose the frame, say update, and like 5 seconds later, everything is gone from the previous one and rebaked and recreated for the new shot.
That is exciting, man.
Yeah.
That is super exciting.
This saved me so much time.
Effects-wise, actually coming from community member Luke Strep25, how did Niko do those like ghosting effects with the robot dash? It's super awesome. Was it animated duplicates or was it some kind of simulation?
Okay, so this is... I wanted to make it way more elaborate. I had so many ideas for how to convey speed. And I wanted to make like environment shifting, but I quickly realized it would be very distracting for the viewer because it would distract from what he's actually doing. So I believe this one is from Titanfall 2, but
okay.
I'm not sure about it. But I saw just this image that this guy here has some kind of device on his back that lets him kind of phase or jump or be super fast. I'm not sure, but I like this image a lot. In the end, what I did was create a copy of the character and placed it just standing there where the ghost should be. I animated the main character like zooming from left to right. I rendered everything without those ghosts, and then I rendered only those ghosts for like 2 seconds, so for like roughly 448 frames, with still the camera move and everything, with the holdout option in Blender. So you make everything transparent but the character. I put in DaVinci and I applied like a lens blur onto the ghost, some kind of refraction or chromatic aberration effect, and I played around with it. For each case, I adjusted it accordingly so that it's not too distracting, but also looks kind of cool.
It looks so cool, man.
Everything else happened in the edit, so no fancy like Blender effects applied to it.
That's so cool. Thanks for breaking that down. Did you utilize Blender's compositor much, or was it mainly done in things like DaVinci for post effects?
Not at all. I'm not very good at compositing. It's something that I still want to learn, but compositing is one of those things that requires also planning. And I already do so much planning for creating the shots that to add this additional layer of, literally layers of thinking about which layers I would need for later on adjustment. So far, it wasn't really necessary. And I heard from other people, at least, that if you get the control later on in post, you will use it.
Forever.
Yeah, you will use it, but then also you kind of play around with the realism too much. So I try to set up as much as possible in Blender in terms of atmosphere, haze, lighting, and keep it like it is, because I know Cycles does it physically correct. So how it looks in Cycles, that's how it's supposed to be.
There's a question actually from one of our community members, Ash Frank Art, who says, at what point does Nico consider each element to be complete?
Yeah, there is like this good enough threshold kind of somewhere. I don't have like this perfect answer for that. I think everyone needs to decide for themselves how they do it. Okay, let's start with the environment. So if it's not perfect but looks good, it's kind of okay. And then I place lights, cameras already set up, and then I see if the asset works for that purpose. But if I see, okay, the camera comes back and then it pans very close to the object, then I see, okay, that could look a little bit better. And then I put in more time into creating the asset. But yeah, I try to go first to create as many things as possible in a okay kind of way. 70-80% roughly is like this rule of thumb for me. And for the character, with my films in general, I don't try to be as photorealistic as possible. I try to have this kind of style and feel. So with the characters, when I'm happy with the design overall, I don't worry about too much of the textures and the shaders. Most of my assets actually just have procedural textures because they work fine and they serve the purpose. I'm much more picky with the design, and also the fans are much more picky with the design because that's one of the trickiest things I would say, is to take a beloved character and interpret them in your own way. You can go very wrong with it, or you can do it very well.
You could be getting sent hate mail and go, Nico, what have you done? This is my favorite character.
Not Michael Wanger.
Yes.
Yeah, it can happen. And I think with some characters in the past, people said, oh no, why did you make his eyes like this? I would love for them to be a little bit more like in the original.
And they become the art director.
Kinda. But it's also important to take this feedback seriously, because you also do it for them. But I think with this episode, I finally got like to that sweet spot where I found the perfect mix between original design, so that the character is still very recognizable, but also in my own way, my own character. For me, that's the most important part, to get the character's essence and feeling right, and then later on being picky with details.
Ash Frank Art also asked, where does Nico get his feedback from?
My girlfriend is my first point of asking if something works or not, especially when it comes to storytelling. Sometimes you are so in your tunnel that you watch it and you think, yeah, it's clear, but you have this knowledge because you came up with it, obviously. But I also have friends also from the VFX industry, and we have a Discord server, and sometimes I send them some work in progress stuff and ask them if what they think about it and if they like it. Especially with the 4th episode, and I asked them what they think the story is, and they interpreted it in a completely different way.
Oh, really?
Because I don't have any dialogue, and my storytelling is completely just with characters, with action, with environment. And one friend said, okay, so as far as I can tell, this and this happens, and this is why the character's doing this. And my intention was completely different. So that gave me like a little panic moment, because I thought, oh no, everyone will interpret it in this way. But later on, I thought about it and I thought, that's not a bad thing. It's good for something, for media, to be interpreted in various ways, not just this one thing that you want to tell, but they can put together all those hints and clues and piece together their own story, and then it works for them, and then they like it.
I guess it's like art in general, like one person looking at a piece of art, for example, in a gallery or a museum, for example. They interpret it completely different to the next person, and there's nothing wrong with that.
100%.
Yeah, nice. Well, thanks, Nico. That's really good, really nice and insightful. Before we talk about maybe advice and things for filmmakers, one point I want to touch on is anything that you've learned from this project, and is there anything that you would do differently?
So I think this project in particular showed me that I did a lot of things right. In terms of workflow, I was actually very, very happy with my approach. So that showed me that I learned from my previous episodes. So actually the opposite.
That's good.
No, you did it right.
Brilliant.
you didn't do anything wrong. You did it right. Keep going like this. I think In terms of efficiency, you can always improve. In terms of complexity of character, with each episode, I had this habit of making them more complex. With this one, I think I peaked. So I don't want to make them even more complex. I still do it because I know I can show it like on social media, maybe some close-ups. Because I put so much work into this character, I wanted to show him off properly. So I did like this little animation where he's like assembled. And so for that was good. But overall, I don't think I would go like super overboard with complexity and mechanism. I think I will go a little bit simpler next time. Yeah, and other than that, be more aware of render times, more optimization, scene optimization in general. I did a good job with this one, I believe.
Have you ever used Prism, which is like a pipeline management add-on?
Oh, Prism, I heard of it, and I actually wanted to incorporate this into, I think, this project or the one before, actually. I realized that I need to also learn a new program and learn how to manage it.
It's so good. We use it on all our projects, and it is a lifesaver. I'm not a sales rep for Prism at all, and you can use it or not use it at all. I mean, just naming conventions, saving up, file versioning, management, asset control. If you do a play blast within it, you can just right click on an image sequence, convert it, it sends it to the folder. You can open directories. It's just a really nice way to navigate.
It sounds awesome.
It's so good.
Maybe I will do with the next one, because I heard Prism is very good for like shot management. But because this one had just one shot basically.
One shot, yeah.
So I thought like, okay, this aspect won't be too helpful. Yeah, I think you convinced me a little bit more to try it out for the next one.
Well, if you need any help, not that you will, Nico, because it's straightforward and you're a very intelligent person.
Well,
just give us a shout if you need anything.
Okay, cool.
Moving on to advice in general for filmmakers. Do you have any advice for filmmakers who want to tell a story using a 3D software?
Sounds weird when you call me a filmmaker.
You made films.
Yeah, I guess so. I think, I made films. I'm a filmmaker, sure. I've been asked many times of how to start learning, how to approach Blender, how to approach creating a film. I think everyone has something that they are passionate about. Using that as a starting point for whatever project you do is almost essential, I would say, because passion and endurance and patience are very important in this kind of field. Everything takes time. When you see something online, I'm learning Blender and someone made a car. Hey, okay, I'll try to do a car. But you're not really into cars, the motivation will quickly fade out, I think. Choosing the right topic, I think it's very, very important. Don't just do what others do. Seriously, think about it, what you love, and choose that as your little project. Even if it seems like it won't be successful on social media because nobody knows it, it's not important in that case.
So how do you, Nico, handle the pressure to constantly showcase your work on social media? And doing that, does it ever impact how you view your own progress or success as an artist?
So social media is an interesting topic because I feel like I'm not very good at promoting myself on social media. But one big thing that I learned over the years, and it's really hard not to do it, but comparing yourself to others, because we live in this weird world where we see mostly the best work of everyone. Not many people share their average work or their bad work, and that creates like this super unrealistic threshold of that's where you should be. There is not such thing as like being beginner and being pro. That's just not those two steps. How I found out that I am actually improving is when you go, for example, Blender Help Reddit or Blender Facebook groups where people ask questions. First, you start asking your own questions, you have your problems, but after a while, you start answering questions. I try to see it as like a journey, and you have your chapters. And suddenly you realize, okay, you're not at chapter 1, you're at chapter 4. There are people that you admire, but there suddenly people appear from nowhere that admire you. And you think like, okay, are they wrong? Are they delusional? And the more I post, the more feedback I get, the more comments I see, how people love my work, you start realizing, okay, you're doing something good. Don't doubt yourself. It's okay. And no matter what other incredible things you see on social media, your work does something to other people. It influences them, it inspires them. Sometimes I get feedback that is way more overwhelming than I would anticipate, or that I actually planned out to be for my films. I just want to entertain people. You need to have a little bit of self-confidence and be proud of your own work.
Awesome, man. That's a really great perspective to have, actually, because, yeah, like you said, it can be very overwhelming. And in a very vulnerable space with social media, it can put people off from even starting. You know, people go, what's the point? But having that kind of perspective is a great way to at least get started in.
Don't compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 15.
100%.
You just started at a different point in time.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that, Nico. It's really, really great insight. Oh, Nico, I've just noticed you've got your Mavericks characters printed out in the background.
Yes.
Awesome. Are you gonna paint them?
I thought about it, but it takes time and patience. For now, like in black, I mean, I can show it to you. I think they look pretty cool. They look actually pretty badass.
Ah, that is so cool. That looks really nice quality. Is that a printer that you've got at home, or did you get them printed externally?
I got it right here.
Ah. Oh, and you've got your Blender. Is that the necklace that you wore at BlenderCon?
Oh, yeah. Here. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name's Nico.
This one is a friend of mine printed it for my birthday. He has like this multicolor printer. That's just one print. So this is how it came out. Yeah, this one's awesome. So I definitely had to wear it at the conference.
Yes, I saw that on the BlenderCon. That's so cool, man. Actually, talking about 3D printing. Here we go. So, you know JESS WISEMAN?
Oh, yeah.
She sent us...
Oh, do you have one of her characters?
We're having a figure off here.
Yeah, her talk and she as a person, she just blew me away.
Incredible, yeah.
I was blown away by the amount of work she's already done.
How has she done that much work in that short of time? She's got so much work done. It's insane.
Exactly. That's why I'm doing this for years and years, but I still couldn't accumulate all the stuff that she showed. When did you do all of it?
Or maybe they do it. Maybe the figure gods actually create a lot of the work for JESS, maybe.
She's just claiming the accolades and they do all the work. Of course.
I'll be honest, I could actually talk a little bit more, but it's been so insightful and such a pleasure to have you on, Nico. It's really great to have you on board, man. Is there anything, future plans, any place that we can find your work to look out for, social media, for anybody looking to follow you?
Yeah, so obviously with my handle DemNikoArt, you can find me basically on all the main platforms. Most importantly, my Patreon.
Oh yeah, please do. If you want to support Nico, how can we do it?
Yes, this is basically the best way for you to support me. So if anybody's interested in supporting the whole Mavericks project, as I mentioned, I have big plans with it. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So if I can kind of offset a small financial part to patrons, that would really help me out. So yeah, everyone who wants to support it, that's the best way to do so. I share my assets and my files, the print files of those characters.
Great. Yeah, awesome.
So not the figurines themselves, but the print files, you get them on my Patreon. And yeah, overall, it's the best way to support me. So yeah.
We can appear a QR code here, I imagine, Nico. Okay, awesome, Nico. Well, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best, and we'll catch up very soon, man. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Pleasure.
It was really fun and awesome to talk to you again.
You too, man. And really nice to meet you as well, Nico. Wish you all the best.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Bye, buddy.
Bye-bye. Take care.